Hidden chambers, optical illusions, and even a little-known secret concerning the king of rock and roll. South Dakota's Mount Rushmore is one of the most iconic symbols of the United States, on par with the Liberty Bell and the Statue of Liberty. Thanks for watching, and welcome back to Re-Inspired Adventures. I'm James, and let's get into the top 9 secrets of Mount Rushmore. First proposed by South Dakota state historian Doane Robinson in 1923, Mount Rushmore didn't reach its final form until 1941, prematurely halted by the death of the monument's sculptor, Gutzon Borglum. Carving began in 1927, and nearly 400 men and women worked on the project, which involved climbing 700 stairs every day and using dynamite to blast through rock. The featured 4 presidents were chosen by Borglum because he thought they represented the most important events in the history of the United States. The colossal 60-foot profiles of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln are so instantly recognizable. They've been spoofed in commercials, used as film backdrops including Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, and reproduced in all sizes and forms, including a giant construction at Legoland. But for all of Mount Rushmore's widespread fame and over 2 million annual visitors, it's also a place with a deep history and a long list of little-known facts that may surprise even the most well-read history buffs. Number 1. The original plan featured a different set of figures. It's hard to imagine Mount Rushmore without the commanding presence of these particular presidents. But believe it or not, Plan A was to spotlight rugged regional heroes such as Lewis and Clark, Buffalo Bill Cody, and the Oglala Lakota leader Red Cloud. The figures would be carved into the granite pillars known as the Needles. This, essentially, would have made the work similar to a set of totem poles. Number 2. Calvin Coolidge was courted for federal funds. When Mount Rushmore was conceived in the late 1920s and the project was in need of funding, President Calvin Coolidge had an auspicious summer vacation in the Black Hills. His trip coincided with a planned formal dedication ceremony of the mountain by Borglum. Locals came up with wildly creative ways to endear themselves to the president, including gifts like a 10-gallon hat. Once a plane airdropped a wreath of flowers at his lodge, and even a creek was stocked with fattened trout from a hatchery so the president could have an easy time fishing. President Coolidge ultimately attended the dedication ceremony, where he promised federal funding for the project. Number 3. Theodore Roosevelt isn't wearing glasses. Only the pince-nez, and neither the lenses nor the earpieces was carved onto President Roosevelt's face, along with ridges on the upper cheeks. From far away, the commander-in-chief looks as if he's donning a pair of spectacles. It's an impressive optical illusion and sculptural stunt. Number 4. There's a hidden chamber behind Lincoln's head. To accompany the faces, Borglum had ambitious visions of a repository with an entrance crowned by a bronze eagle, accessible by a grand staircase. Interiors were to be adorned with friezes, vaulted ceilings, busts, and bronze and glass cabinets that housed artifacts central to American democracy. The construction only got so far. A tunnel was blasted into the canyon before it was abandoned. Though the unfinished Hall of Records, cut into the rock behind President Lincoln's head, remains off-limits to visitors, it's the bearer of a titanium vault with porcelain panels outlining milestones in U.S. history. Number 5. Attempts have been made to add a 5th face. Women's rights activist Rose Arnold Powell led an indefatigable crusade to get Susan B. Anthony's visage on the mountain. Meanwhile, conservatives spearheaded the Reagan on Rushmore or Ron on the Rocks movement to memorialize the 40th president's legacy. There have even been efforts to add Elvis Presley's slicked-back likeness to the Black Hills. Number 6. The best views are from the President's Trail. Follow the crowds and you'll end up at the Grandview Terrace just beyond the Avenue of the Flags. True, the head-on views are spectacular and unobstructed. Walk the often bypassed loop around the base of the mountain. Climbing up the steps through ponderosa pines, you can get a closer view of the faces at various twists and turns, and maybe catch a glimpse of a Rocky Mountain goat or a mule deer, too. Number 7, it's been the site of protests. Mount Rushmore has also been a site of continued controversy since its conception. The area was named Sioux Territory by the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868, and the Black Hills have historical, spiritual, and cultural significance to the area's tribal nations. For Native American protesters, particularly active in the 1970s, Mount Rushmore is a painful reminder of broken treaties and a history of mistreatment. Number 8. The monument isn't finished. If there's something raw and rugged about Mount Rushmore, it's because it's far from a finished masterpiece. Save for a final brush-up by Borglum's son Lincoln, construction halted after the original sculptor's death. The model was meant to depict the heads of state down to the waist, but today, you can barely make out Washington's coat collar, and Lincoln's ear, shoulder, and a fourth knuckle were never chiseled to completion. Number 9. Google Maps sometimes gets the address wrong. If you're using Google Maps to locate this national landmark, be very, very specific. Apparently, general searches for Mount Rushmore often send travelers astray. If you find yourself at a Methodist campground called Storm Mountain Center, you're about 12 miles away from the memorial. Now let's hit some other quick, interesting facts about Mount Rushmore that you might not know. First up, did you know that George Washington has a piece of metal longer than your arm stuck in his eyeball? A drill bit got stuck there during the carving. No one knows why the sculptor, Gutzon Borglum, decided to leave it there. It is likely the sculptor was worried the eye would crumble if he tried hard to pull it out. Second, nobody died during the construction of Mount Rushmore. There were a few close calls, though. One worker blew his socks off with dynamite. There was also an accident with an out-of-control tram, which workers used to transport people and equipment to the top of the heads. Third, the workers had a baseball team, the Rushmore Drillers. Men were hired just as often for being a good pitcher or center fielder as they were for being able to run a jackhammer. And last up, the last person to work on Mount Rushmore died in 2019. Nick Clifford, who worked on the heads from 1938 to 1940, was paid 55 cents an hour for his work. He also fought in World War II and was known around the Black Hills as a local celebrity. Well, there you have it. If you enjoyed this journey through the top secrets of Mount Rushmore and want more of these adventures, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy adventures.